This is Mark Kramer. I am the host of Asian Founders and Funders. Today we have Linh, who is one of the co-founders of the Vietnam Debate Academy. And Linh is an entrepreneur, and today she's going to share about her company, how she got started in entrepreneurship and where she's going. And you'll be able to ask her questions. So Linh, welcome, and thank you so much for taking the time. And you're in Ho Chi Minh City, correct?
Sure, yes. So behind me was District 1. So thanks, Professor Mark and all Vinh University students for spending time with me today. So yeah, I was having known Professor Mark for a while, also sharing sort of a bit of story about my entrepreneurship life. I also have a small chance working with Vinh Uni under the debating championship last July. So yeah, very great to be here.
Well, wonderful. So why don't you go ahead and put your PowerPoint on, and so you can start to tell us your story, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Sure. So because I was prepared some sort of story of mine, which I think might be beneficial for all you guys. The story did not really related to my company itself because my background is actually a bit diverse. But however, I think that these are some of these very, very important lessons that I've been learning over the past 8 years. I think I'm not so much older than you guys, but I started my entrepreneur journey pretty young. So those are pretty hard lessons that hit on me, which I've been embracing and experiencing for quite a while. So very proud to bring it to be with you guys for today. So these are some of the few lessons. So by the way, there are some of my company people that is also attending. I think it's a great chance for them to learn. So just welcome everybody again. So these are 8 lessons that I learned to be an entrepreneur. And as mentioned, I started pretty young. And these did not follow in any order. So just feel free to ask me a question if you have any question. So a bit of the introduction about me. So currently I'm the co-founder, CEO of the Vietnam Academies of Debate and Public Speaking. I also have background managing and going with venture fund, managing a $3.7 billion tech startup portfolio. So those are mobile games and so a bit of the fintech app. I'm currently also a tech startup founder. So the reason why I go to Saigon is because we are under the programs with the VC called Ansler in cooperation with my current company, We Group. So We Group make games and mobile app developments and sort of things. So yes, so that's a quick about me. Lessons. Number 1, so the very important qualities to be an entrepreneur. I believe that not everyone can go on in this tough journey, and there are some certain characteristics. There are some certain characteristics that set you apart. There can be someone who, I'm sorry, but so all the students here are going for business major, right? Is there anyone?
No, they're a cross section of majors. They're freshmen, and so they're from doctors to engineers to computer science.
Oh, interesting. So yeah, that's a very diverse backgrounds of audience we have here, and definitely it's a good chance for you to start asking questions. Are you the right one to be an entrepreneur, right? So some of the important qualities that make entrepreneurs very different from the other. I also try to put people from so many backgrounds in my company and several scenarios, and someone which is really stand out to be an entrepreneur, and someone even they try a lot, they can't really make it. So yeah, not everyone can go on this tough journey. 4 main important key sets that I think Number one, character first. So ask yourself if you are perseverance, are you novelty seeking, which is always seeking for something more better than yesterday? Are you agile and adapt to the situation since the market is always changing? And are you fearless enough to start with something totally new? Second thing is very, very important, networking. So how you started growing your network. It can be very simple from your peer who is starting at the same school as you, your college at work, or even me and Professor Mark. We just, fun fact, how we grow our network, which is very random. We went to a barbecue dinner, right? But our networking also grow along there. So these are some of these very basic but still important skills that make you start a business conversation, make you start with a business idea or whatsoever. The third characteristic, very important, your storytelling skill. Just so you know, some of the greatest leaders or some of the greatest entrepreneurs in the world have a very good storytelling skill, right? So let's take an example from someone like Elon Musk to Steve Jobs. Their storytelling was brilliant. To even, I don't know if you heard of the story of WeWork founder, but thanks to his amazing storytelling, right, he was able to raise $300 million something with WeWork, and then come up next with the flows, and then currently the company go bankrupt. But that's another story. Still, you need to get a very good storytelling skill. And the last one, you have the right business mindset. What does it mean by to have a business mindset, and how do you start getting it? By the way, so about BDP, which is the company that I'm currently working on, we empower the world's next leader with certain skill that I think is really, really important for you to be successful. So critical thinking, storytelling, public speaking, negotiations, and competitive debates. These are not the these for young student, which is basically a supplementary skill that can improve your academics performance at school. However, when you grow up, like for example, someone in my age right now, I realize that those are some of very, very important skills that make me success in certain business scenario. So we applied this into K-12 school, teach students since very young with the skill, corporate trainings. Some of the very big companies in Vietnam are still realize that these are so important for them to success. So for example, on the second picture, we do with P&G on improving their customer experience. Excellent. And the third one, we host tournaments worldwide. So as mentioned, last July, this was one of the largest war debate tournament has ever come to Vietnam. We gathered 600 debaters from 68 countries. I was having the chance to greet so many of Vince's faculty, Professor Mark, and so many other professors to attending with us. This December 2023, we are hosting another war for university student in Ho Chi Minh City, which will welcome for 2,000 more debaters coming along. So I was talking about having the right business mindsets, right? Which means how you can start building it as you are very young, like you are a freshman. So the practice was very simple. Start to view everything from the business perspective. What does it even mean? So question, how many of you here have watched the Era Tours? I mean, the movie itself.
We have a handful of people who watched it.
Yes, and it's made Taylor Swift become a billionaire after just 6ix9ine singing in LA, isn't it? And it continued growing. They have their calendar lined up for the next year, 2024. So the Era Tour, Taylor Swift is the very first musician and singer to become a billionaire just only from singing. But that's a $1 billion industry, right? Zoom itself. So when Zoom was arrived, there was a lot of video call platform, there was Skype, but Zoom still arrived within the pandemic, which is really struggle for a lot of business. But after 4 years, Zoom was able to gain for $4.39 billion in revenue rate. And right now, I think that the tool is still very powerful in the way that they start integrating with a lot of AI power and technical tools that make your video call streaming or any other activities go easy, way more even easier. Okay, all right. Also, if you start viewing everything that happenings around you from business perspective, the largest groups of Vietnam, right, Vin groups, there was a lot of business activities within their group itself. So for example, you are attending Vin University, which is their education sector. They also run from automobile industry, real estate, construction, healthcare, so many others. So ask yourself, what sector are contributing the most to this 5.57 billion revenue by 2023? How much of their profits, how much of their loss, how is their activities, how their operation, how many people are working on each of the industry, which one is the most profitable, which one is the most, I don't know. So asking yourself those questions and start viewing things and comparing with different perspective make you analyze from the very first step. Like in terms of business perspective, how is that things really make sense? Like in terms of business perspective, right? How just Taylor Swift singing make her a billionaire, or how just one single Zoom application after 4 years make 4 billions. Vin Group takes quite a while to reach this 5.57 billion. So I think that the company has been established for 30 years, but that's with another story I would talk about in the next slide. However, when you start comparing things like that, you want to see that there were so many companies out there. How are they performing? How are they set their business performance? How are they just how things would start making sense to you? All right. Next one. All right. So I was giving 3 examples, very random, but definitely they're not the same. Like you can't just randomly just say that, oh, well, then maybe we start with something like Zoom would be more profitable than Vin Groups, right? But that's not the story. There was the very huge difference between startup company, something like Zoom, Facebook, TikTok, Amazon, which they have a totally different way of operation. They have a different business model. They have different approach, and it's different with your traditional business. But there was a very interesting quote that I was learning of thinking like a startup, but executing like corporates itself. So what make a startup and a corporate company's difference? So for startup, when you mention something like startup, they intend for growth. Your successful metrics is your growth rate. How fast is you gain a million user, 1 billion user? How fast is that for you to start doing fundraising, getting to several of the next round? How fast is that for you to reach 100 millions in revenue, 1 billion revenue? So startup looking for something highly grow, something totally disruptive to the industry, something that's scale with technology, right? While on the other side, corporate company tend to test your challenge of how you can execute with some of more heavy sector. How would you be very specialized in certain industry? How you manage a corporate with 1,000 to 10,000 people? So that was a bit of the difference on when you're viewing things. You start categorize them in the right groups and things with the right mindset, with the different perspective. And then when you realize that, oh, I want to get into my entrepreneurship journey, or I want to start my first company, or I just want to see how other people are making money. So you start to decide your business model. Like for example, how my VADP's business model is very different from my other tech company, my some of the other startup itself. So different business, so different company, different business have different model. Well, you can do sort of the practice that after today, you can look into some of the model and decide like which one is that? How do they make money? What are the way to make money? What is the potential of that model to grow at the fast stage? Like for example, I can pick out, let's say, which one is that? All right, so like for example, Facebook, they were giving it all for free, right? But the business model is actually relies on their hard support. So the revenue dry out from the advertising, the company running through your data. And once you start your click, your you basically contribute part of the revenue margins to the platform of Facebook. But there's something that have different model, like Spotify. It's all give you free, but when you would get engaged with the platform, right? They also do a lot of reminding advertise, but for you to buy subscription, like hey, buy premiums, it's only $2. But so then that is basically how a lot of business out there are being operated and making money. So when you see things, start asking yourself these basic questions, and then if you want to start your first business, which one you would decide to make your first early money? All right, this is something that's super basic, but I do think that this is something I want to start with because, well, sometimes simplicity is the key. I didn't add it in my background, but I was having a lot of corporate company or a lot of business to restructuring, and one of the mistakes that they would usually make is they didn't calculate carefully the profit and loss since the beginning, like how much profit that I can make, how much loss that I can make, with a very simple equation. I think because you're a freshman, but once you got in more of accountings or business structuring sort of things, you would know how to do this. But basically, that's what the equations of revenue minus cost equal, whether it's profits or loss. And well, and then what those metrics give you, right? Sometimes it doesn't, yeah, it definitely not feeling good at all to be at loss, but sometimes the small profits also doesn't account for the whole story. Like I was always reminding of my team of there was industry that make very small profits, but you account for very large revenue. So at the end, that amount is still bigger than a company that make a very huge margin and profits, but it's very small market and small industry. Okay, how to grow your business from zero. So I think that from my experience, what is the very good way to start growing your business is to start trying it today. And there are several ways for you to start doing it. Even back into lesson 4, I said that there are so many potential and so many ways. And you doesn't need to set a very ambitious goal that I need to be that success since day one. But at least you know some of these very basic to start with. So to start with your business, there's one thing that's very, very important. You don't really need the whole team. You don't need something so complicated, so sophisticated, so complex to start at the beginning. There was a very interesting story. I was talking with some of the VC friends here in Ho Chi Minh. So I was saying, well, during this economic downturn, I think that the workforce that contribute most to company success and company's revenue is the salesperson. And then my friends was saying, no, you should keep that mindset, even whether it's in economic downturn or upturn, because the sales force or your sales skill is actually that help your company at any time, whether it's a very critical point or whether it's already a mature state. Sales always drive the very direct result that you need at the very first stage when you grow your business. So you start with something very easy, your core products and your salesperson. That's when your team was starting very small, but you start earning the very first revenue, which is going to help you later with reinvestment, R&D, products development, whatsoever. After this is time when you start needed, when you're moving into the second stage of growing, you can start with marketing or branding, which is basically storytelling. Tell the whole world about your story. Get more people attention and attraction about your products. Make customer want about your products. Remember about some of these luxury brands, right? Like Hermes or Chanel was so successful with giving a branding for their products, or even the Era tours. I think that the way that they're doing marketing is super excellent. How they put Taylor Swift at the front, and just every touch to go to the shows would have a very careful I think that something is also very good about the Era tour is that they was calculating the P&Ls very carefully at the beginning. They would set the right target that this is going to be $1 billion tour, right? And then for every of the shows, for every stage, they were doing very good effects of visualizing, lightning, whatsoever, make it the very best customer experience. So yeah, that's the stage when you need more attention. And then if your core products were a tech product, you don't really need, but try to grow with something that tech's enable. It allow you to scale, to grow with scale at this time, right? When everybody have access to technology, and technology is free, right? So that's when you would start, that you would enable with tech. It can be from something that's very simple, launching your apps, integrating with AI, automation, machine learning, whatsoever. I think it's right now because the developments of technology has given founder or business person a lot more tool to grow the business more than ever before. And then when you were mature enough, you can start with operations. This is when you have people from different department, HR, R&D, legal, quality control, finance, make it to become a machine that's ready to run. Okay, and then, yes, I think the next thing was very, very important. So there was some, and why do I bring up this story? So there was time in the past when I was your age, or when I was freshman, I didn't get into so many university clubs, which at first I thought that, oh, I maybe fail in my leadership skill or my management skill. Maybe I haven't shown to be the school club. I didn't start any new thing and new projects, but I realized that your leaderships can be happen at anywhere surrounding you. And it started with something simple, from managing self to managing teams. So managing self was something I listed out here, 3 characteristics that I always managing and controlling myself to be under one roof. So number 1 with discipline, number 2 with time management, and number 3 is financial literacy. So to be an entrepreneur, you gotta be very decisive in some of these moments. You gotta be very tough and sometimes alone, because you are the only one who will go on this tough journey. Not so many people surrounding you will go on it. So gotta be very tough to yourself, very strict to yourself. Second one with time management. Right now, people can spend even an hour or 2 hours on just doing TikTok. And I feel that these were wasting a lot of your time. If I was asking myself what are something that I have ever regrets over the last 8 years when I was start being on my own, going into university and running my company, I think I was follow a very strict time management. for every meetings, for every work need to be done, for every deadline need to submit. And the last one was financial literacy. So nowadays things will get more complex than before. You also have access to mobile app, even investment tool, start managing your personal budgets and so, right? So I think that these are some of the skills that are very important when you start to be independent and you start to approach to a more complex business landscape than before. Like for example, just very simple question, right? Right now the interest rate is go even lower than 5% annually for saving in a bank. What would better way for you to use your money, right? If you put it in a bank, it make very less profits compared to very less interest rate. Like how low is that to get 4.5%, which I check in the afternoon. So normally you got roughly 7 to 8%, right? Or there are some business opportunities that give you 12 to 13%. Or if you start doing your business, what if you can gain a profits of 30, 40%, right? So that's always, that's also the literacy that you should get, and grow into managing teams. So your leaderships could grow within. So your leadership doesn't grow if you have to go with something fancy, like running a school clubs, leading a speech, or having something fancy. But it's how you control or manage people under your roof. So when you manage 1 to 30 people, the challenge, which is very normal, you taking a good care of them. Just make sure that everything is optimized under roof. You got the right, like with me, it's just thinking about if you have enough runway to cover for the payslip, and for all business activities. But when your company will start to grow to 30 to 100 people, which is the tech companies that I'm working on, things got more complicated. This is when you have to think about corporate values, working more with people, when you start building your corporate culture, and a lot more things. And when you was managing 2,000 people, like for example, the tournaments we are doing in Ho Chi Minh City in the next few months, that's also related to a lot of legal, safety, compliance, whatsoever, etc. So your leaderships will grow along when you would quantify your activities like that, measure it with the right metrics. So that's how you saw yourself grow. And the last one, I think what's very important, investing in yourself. So I divide it into 3 categories: your energy, your knowledge, and your people, and always invest in yourself. That's the best investment you would have, even it doesn't bring return immediately, but your ROI will escalate over the year. So your energy is basically your physical outlook, your mental strength, and your hobby and your interest. When I was your age, I don't really read or follow any self-help or financial advice article, because I think it doesn't really reflect me, and everybody have different needs or different wants or things, right? So like for example, if article telling you don't buy luxury bags or whatsoever, try to learn how to save, learn how to invest. Well, ask yourself if those are the right kind that you will prioritize those needs. So especially for women, I think that your appearance, your outlook, your energy is also one of these soft power that you can use in a lot of scenario, even in business background. So it's really how you think that you will prioritize the important need to make yourself the very good version of yourself. Invest in something that you like, your interest, your hobby. If you want to go paragliding, you want to go skydiving, flowering, whatsoever, try it. Spend enough of the budget to go for those activities. It's helped with a lot of these qualities that I taught from the very first lesson, which I can elaborate so details here, but that's what I mean. Your knowledge, your academics background, what you are going for in universities right now. Try to make the most out of it. Learn a lot from people around you. Your skill set, learn those skills that's very important to you. Like, so for example, I was coming from a business background. I was having a very good speaking skill or storytelling skill, but then I realized that, oh, those tech company are growing at speed fast rate. I may need a tech background as well. So I decided to take a course with Reforce. So the programs that company like Uber, Slack are teaching lessons about how they grow their tech products to get 100 million user or to become $1 million apps. And your work experience, you get better by the day. In my company, BDP, could you imagine that I'm one of the very few young in the industry? Some of these manager people are 20 years of experience more than me. How do I start showing my leadership and still managing them, right? So I still have to gain my work experience by day. Doesn't mean it's gonna make me less leader than someone who is older than me. But just that you put something in control and know what you need to improve on your own. So that's how you can still manage your company since very young. And your people, the person surrounding your personal relationship, friends, lover, whatsoever, your family, your communities, people surrounding you. So I think in the list of questions that I have was about how you balance things between work-life balance, sort of, but I always have these metrics divide, and I even set number, how much of priority I set for each of this. So I remain very balanced and healthy between these categories. And sometimes I put something more priorities than the other. Sometimes I put it less. So it's all about how you prioritize and control things. And I think it's matter in or certain periods of time. Like for example, right now when you are young, your investment might be different, right? When you into my age, my priority change over time, and it doesn't matters. Modify your metrics. So yeah, I think that these are all of the things that I want to bring in here for today. And I hope that's helped you in a way that you decide your major, start with your business, do something new, or form your new self.
Yeah. Lynn, I thought that was excellent. Thank you so much for that presentation. So, Lynn, as I'm listening to you talk all about this, and it sounds like you're also working and having work-life balance. Have you managed to have some work-life balance? Hard to say, especially in startups.
Well, I don't really have to manage work-life balance, as I said. I just modify these metrics at certain periods of time. So, for example, this is when our company is launching the new products. My priority for work would be 40%. But if we are at the year end and we already reach all business outcome, I'm willing to set priority for family and relationship up to 30%. So it's how I manage it.
Okay, all right. So let me have the audience. What questions do you have for Lynn? What would you like to ask her? All right, over here.
Hi, hello. I don't know if you can see me well.
Yeah, I can see you well.
Oh, you can hear. Okay, good.
So hello, Ms. Lingley. My name is Lingley as well. So firstly, thank you very much for making time with us today and very insightful sharing. I can see that you analyze Taylor Swift Eras Tour pretty in detail, and I will assume that you like Taylor Swift. I mean, who doesn't? Because she's a singer, but she's also she's also a very smart. Sorry. She's also a very smart businesswoman, and I can see that energy in you as well. So I have a small questions. So as a female CEO, how do effective communications and like public speaking skills affect your positions in the industry and the growth of your business as well?
That's
New
actually a very
challenges.
good. Yeah, thanks a lot for your question. That is actually very exciting. I don't know if you remember about the last thing that I was saying, but even your outlook, your characters, is the very soft power that only women or females leader have. So it gives you a very flexible and how can I say I can say that um, because you were having both of the soft power as well as hard power in a place at work. So you can approach any topics or matter or subject in a more considerate, um, empathetic, and still very intuitive at that time. So for example, I was talking about how we use negotiation at work, right? So if there was a time that I need to negotiate, it's different with how I presenting or convincing my partner to follow with my idea. So you just use those different tools or these different power at the right time when you need it. So that's how you communicate well in a teams with people with very diverse background. So like for example, let's say in Vietnam Academies of Debates, there was someone who is very um, there is someone who's very self-assured because they was doing debates sometimes or and then there's also my other co-founder, he's a male CEO. He's very masculine. There was someone who is a manager. They talking from a lot of their experience. So how do you approach these people in different ways, right? So I think it's about using the right tool set and the right skill set at the right moment. Why you have to set what is the real outcome I want to get out of this conversation. So at the end, you can still get what you want.
Lynn, by the way, do you come from a family of business owners? I mean, how did you end up being interested in entrepreneurship?
No, I don't come from any entrepreneur. I don't come from any entrepreneurship background. My dad was just a driver, and my mom is a pharmacist. But I realized that things from my mom and my dad's story is that my dad's would actually very smart, but he would just start his business out of his interest. He didn't even calculate profit and loss since the beginning. So a lot of business would ending up closing by the end, right? Or sometimes sometimes he didn't test out if his interest is what the markets want. So I'm very proud to be a better versions of both of them. But I think even though they don't start with entrepreneur background, there were certain characters in both my mom and my dad, as I mentioned, perseverance, fearless, were contribute to me in my journey of becoming an entrepreneur.
We have a question here.
First of all, I want to thank you for your presentations. It was very insightful and lessons to learn from. So I'm very interested into your startup, which is the VADP, Debate and Public Speaking Academic Foundation. I actually have some background in debate too. So I have one question, which is that what are the market potentials and demands that drive the projects of establishing VADP? As I read from your information, you started this in 2019, and at that time, I didn't think that debate and public speaking is a well-known field in Vietnam. So what are the demands and potentials that drive you to start this up?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think you must have heard of us and must have been knowing us for quite a while. So interesting. I'm not really co-found VDP since the beginning. I just joined VDP last year. So my journey with VP is only a year. However, it's also about the mindset that I have at first. How do you view things from a business perspective? So I was seeing the potential demands and a very interesting market for this market. That's why I decided to join the team last year. If you were speaking of market, how huge is that? I don't really do any research, but it just come out of my business instinct and also the habit that I was doing. As I was telling you guys, that at that moment I feel that there's a market search and the need for debates. And VADP since 2019 was not able to be as successful as now because they were not doing the right market positioning and targeting the right customer. So I was basically transforming that in the new way we approach. And yeah, so I was working out of that, and whether the market is big or not, I do think it's big, it's large enough. So it's, for example, before VAP have never did something like corporate trainings. Why? As I mentioned, right, when we were launching the product just a few months ago, we got customer like P&G, VPS, company that really need those skills for their success. So why VDP have to limit their customer with a very narrow target customer of the 2019 versions, right? So if you look into the 2023 version, the markets where our target customer were a bit more, way much larger. And we also take a very different approach, which therefore change our business model, our revenue stream, and our corporate structure as well. So I do believe that this is now, is a very interesting and promising markets. And by the way, I never did debates before. But see, even I never do debate, but I run a debate company. So how my second lesson is going to benefit you guys?
I've often run companies I had no experience in whatsoever, but I came up with the idea and just launched them and got partners who actually understood that. So we have a question over here. Are you ready?
So I have a question for you. Thank you for your insightful sharing session. My question for you is, how do you overcome periods of crisis, whether in your company or in your personal life?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
How do you overcome crisis in your professional and personal life? How do you handle crisis? How do you become resilient?
Well, I think it's also come back with my sixth lesson, isn't it? Definitely, I come from a lot of crisis. When I was your age, my crisis is not from my business. I would come from what is called, like, what is that? Mid-quarter crisis, peer pressure. So how do I overcome it? Because I was categorized that into different levels. Is that a 1 to 30 people crisis level? Is that 100 to 300 people crisis level, or thousands crisis level? Which is basically what I mean is the seriousness or the scalability of these problems. So because of that, they like growing by day. I think I manage crisis better, and there is something come from business, as I mentioned. The entrepreneur life is very tough. Even nowadays, when you are running your company, every business will have a problem. When you're running a machine or a business, it's a problem always arise. But you're gonna live with that. How you manage, how you control that. So right now, it's almost like you live with it every day. So you got used to it. And then because you divide it into a certain level of seriousness, so you know how to deal with it when it comes. So it's getting easier.
Okay, we have another question over here.
Okay, so thank you for the sharing today. And I really like the structure that you have given. And for my questions, so I know that you work in the educational service, like having the debate academy. So I want to ask, like, what do you think of the challenges and the potentials in like doing business in?
Sorry.
So she wanted to know what's the, since you're in the education business, what is the potential in the education business for other opportunities?
Okay, interesting. So as I mentioned, I am an entrepreneur, but also an investor at the same time. So it can be any sector, right? Like I was start with other education sector, but now I was switching into tech. So it's about what the core products you have. Opportunities exist in every industry, right? You know, let's say Duolingo, right? It's with a very simple apps. They would all the contents would drive from crowdsourcing, right? But they make $100 million just by a single learning apps. In tech industry, there's very huge company that are already growing in many sectors as well. Like right now, I think people are using technology to solve a lot of problem in healthcare, in manufacturing, in logistics, e-commerce, whatever. So what my answer to you is no longer whether there is opportunities or not. An opportunity exists in every industry, but it's more of how you saw a very unique or a niche market in that sector that you think that you have a very unfair advantage to enter in. Like, why do I let's come back with a question. Why do I invest or acquire VDP? Well, the fact is because they do something different than the other education sector. They don't do tutoring, they don't do English teaching, they don't do math. And at first it's also out of my interest. Oh, I saw that something innovative coming in. I want to invest in this sector. I want to make a difference on debates in Vietnam. So yeah, I think that you have to have your own theory of what you really want. I have a friend here in Saigon. He was very smart. If you look him up on Google, he was actually the second runner up of Olympia 5 years ago. Sorry, 11 years ago. His only interest, he was managing a $1 billion portfolio for TPG, which is a very large investment firm in the US. His only interest is to do fresh food supplying, which is basically sell a bunch of orange, a bunch of veggie, whatever, for wholesale. And it's make him very small margin of only 5%. However, he believed that those are something that there is no one have ever solved those problems. Back Hua saying it's not even break evens, right? When they distribute fresh food. So it's also come from your personal interest as well. So
Okay.
yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, one more question and then we have to close up class, and we so appreciate you taking the time. So let me have one more question here.
Thank you. Hello, Ms. Linh. I'm really impressed by your speech today, and I have a question for you. So I know that startups usually encounter several operational challenges, especially regarding employee treatment. And so my question is, do you think that employees in your company are well treated enough? And if the answer is yes, can you share with us some policy that you have implemented to effectively enhance the welfare of your workforce to maximize their well-being and productivity?
Yes. So, as I mentioned right now, because of the economic downturn, or in another word, of lowering in sales revenue. So our priorities right now is spend most of these budgets for the sales workforce. I think that they are some of the field that play a very pivotal roles right now in our company. It's actually very interesting that one of the projects that I'm doing right now, like the tech products we are doing, is also provide training solutions for like for corporates and for growing teams, but not yet for VDPs at this moment. I think most of the trainings budget is still spending for the frontline workforce, salesperson, and the academics team, which is basically someone deliver the right products to customer. So there was one of the lessons that I speak at the very beginnings, is that every of the entrepreneur or everyone want to start with business, you need to have a very strong sales skill. And I wasn't come with a very confidence or a very strong sales background. However, I realized that that is something that's very important mindset for every company to grow. So yeah, my answer to you right for that is not yet. And the priorities right now is go to the frontline team who performs customer service, products deliver, and Salesforce.
Lynn, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to speak to our class today, and I think everybody got a lot out of it, so thank you so much. I'll look forward to seeing you when you do come back up to Hanoi.
Sure. I think that on my slide, I can send letters for you guys. So if you would like for coffee talks, and I think if you might have a lot more questions, just email me under link lnd@vadp.edu.com. By the way, you can also check it out on our websites as well. So yeah, if you want for coffee talks, any advice, feel free to email me. Thanks, everyone.
And please send me your slides so I can send them out to everyone.
Sure.
All right, everyone, thank you so much again. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.
See you. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye. All right, everyone. Thank you so much.